Welcome to the JAMODI Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders, so let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
Coaches, the JAMODI Podcast is powered by Scoreboard Media. Scoreboard Media works with high schools across the country to run professional sponsorship programs on their LED scoreboards. Whether you already have LED and you just want to supercharge the revenue, or you want to use sponsorship revenue to buy new LED video scoreboards, Scoreboard Media can help. They work with sponsors and advertisers locally, regionally, and nationally who want to connect with your school's community. Email info@scoreboardmedia.com to start the conversation and see what's possible.
You've talked a lot about the connection that you have with your players, how important that communication is. How do you meet with your guys? Because I feel like that's something that every coach wants to do, but then it's really easy for that time for you to lose it.
Man, that's a great question, Matt. And I love that question too, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about it on how can I be better at communicating with my players. So over the years, I've come up with a couple of things, but I've had to like anything else, when you're trying to figure it out, right? You always kind of go back to the source. And I considered myself, when I was an assistant, for Coach Dyer, man, I thought I was a really good assistant, and it had nothing to do with X's and O's, man. It really didn't. I had everything to do with the relationships I had with those kids. And those kids to this day at DeSoto they're like little brothers to me. Des Willingham, who's head coach at Dallas Skyline, he and I talk all the time. And now I'm his mentor, right? But Des can tell you how many countless hours I spent rebounding for him. And, when he graduated, he was the state MVP. We won state in 2003 with him. And now he's trying to figure it out as a coach. And he just looks to me all the time, and some of the other Charles Stoker and some of the other guys on that team as well. And so I went back to how can I get it like that again? Right? That's the relationship I want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with X's and O's. Coach Dyer did all the X's and O's. He was the guru with that. But what was it that I was doing? And Matt, it was just time. It was time and consistency with the guys. Right? Getting extra shots up, rebounding for them. Man, it sounds really, really little. And it sounds like it doesn't mean much, but it's no different than you spending time with your wife or your girlfriend or your daughter or your son. That you can't buy that, man. You can't even put a price tag on what that really means. And so, like with our players, and it's harder to do as a head coach. It's much harder. I haven't found the balance yet. And so, because you got so many other things that you got to take care of. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I try. One of the things that I try to do to get me to that point with my guys so that they can trust me is I meet with them more than one time a year. And I like to meet with them. It's ongoing. It's an ongoing conversation. At the beginning of the year when they get to school, first meeting we have, we talk about what's going to happen, this and that. I give them all a note card. And, they write down some things, just some basic information, right? And part of that is like, what are your goals? List 3 goals, 3 team goals, 3 individual goals, something like that, right? And they write them down, and it doesn't matter to me what they have down. What matters is I can go back to this, right? And, it's all basketball related or whatever. What do you want out of it? Who are your best friends? They just get to know type of stuff, right? And so whenever it looks like something's not going right with that player and I want to talk to them during the year, hey, come on, let's have a conversation. I pull that card back out, and like, let's see what you're struggling with. Or, hey, you remember when you wrote this? Where are we with it? Where are we with this goal? Well, I'm not doing so well on it. If somebody says, well, I want to become a better 3-point shooter. Well, are you getting extra shots in? What are we doing? And you just try to get them back on the right path. Right. And I think that's helped a lot, but I formally try to meet with every player at the beginning of the year individually. So after that team meeting, I'll meet with them, I'll bring them all in and we meet briefly and we discuss what they put on that card. And then I try to meet with them at some point formally during the year, and I don't pick a day. Sometimes it's just like, hey, why don't you come by this morning? Let me holler at you real quick, and I just try to get through the whole team. And then and again, after the year, when we have our post-year evaluation, how'd you think the year went? And then it's just ongoing after that. It's just conversation, but getting there early, man, to practice while they're giving the guys time to warm up. It used to be, man, as soon as we got there, let's go, practice is going. And then so I started building in let's get a little warm up time going in there, right?
Yeah.
Let's get in the gym, get some shots up. Give me a chance to walk around and dap some guys up and, hey, how was your day today? Just kind of get a feel for them before you get going. And that's all part of relationship building. And so, you know, some kids, they're kids, right? And some kids aren't comfortable with that. Some of them are. And it just takes time. They all mature at different times. But those relationships that I had with those kids, back then, I longed for, man. It's what made me love coaching. It made me love this profession because I was able to help people and help young kids. And, the fact that they look up to me 20 years later and like, Coach, I still need help, and they're still calling you coach and stuff like that, man. It's just, you can't. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You can't buy it. You can't just go to the store and buy it.
Yeah.
And it just makes you as a person feel really good that you've helped somebody along the way. And so, I think it starts there with us, just meetings. It sounds like a lot, but ongoing meetings, 3 formal meetings a year, I'm sure there's coaches like, man, how do you get that to everything else going on? You just make time for it.
That's the point. Schedule it. And schedule doesn't have to mean like when I schedule my meetings, I use volunteer link. I literally build out the slots and the times. I text them the link. They go in and they choose out of all those times the best for them, right? But they're all times where I'm going to be available. If you don't schedule it, the odds of it happening by chance or the odds of you that's low. The odds of you missing guys or not having time, I think that's high. And the other word I wrote down is intentional. You got to be intentional with wanting to meet, but then what you do with that time. And I love that idea of those cards because I use a journal, but when you write down things before that next meeting, you review it. And to me, to a player, nothing makes them feel more special that when you revisit or ask a question about something you talked about previously. That's huge.
Yeah, man, it goes a long way. And right. And so, most guys want to go in and outwork everybody because they have the energy to do it. And I just learned to work smarter, and that's one of the things, working smarter and not harder. And we're going to work hard, but we're going to pick our hard like you talked about earlier.
Yeah. I think early on, 75% of what coaches think about is the X's and O's, practice plans, things like that. And 25% is relationships. And then at some point you realize, man, I've got it backwards. And then the 75% becomes the relationships, what you fight for, the culture, and all of the things that really make a program makes it work. And then the 25% is what offense, what defense we're going to run. It's more about how you do it. And the how you do it is the 75%, right?
And then I think there's a piece in there that you have to factor in that says, what are you going to do for me? And so, think about it. They all want something out of it. And so what am I going to do to help them reach their goal?
Yeah.
And so I got to be really good at that, right? Let me help you. What do you want out of this? I brought a kid in just the other day, B-teamer. Okay. And working them out. And I'm like, man, there's a reason he's a B-teamer. He started off on the A team and didn't quite make it through the first 2 days of practice. It was just a little too hard for him. And so he decided it wasn't for him. Okay. Good looking kid, long, little bit skilled. Looks like if he worked at it, could be a good player, just from passes the eye test. There you go. And so I was like, all right, it's fine, man. So we were still going through tryouts and cuts and all that. And we're a big school, so we don't really have a lot of time for that. We got some dudes, right? And so, all right, just move to the side. That's pretty typical in pretty much every school, right? If you can't do it, if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to beg you to do it because it's not for everybody. This is what we're doing is going to take some commitment and some sacrifice. And so we got out for a little bit and, was out of the program for about 2 months. And then we go through tryouts again. And my freshman coach decides, man, let's give him another shot. We put him on the B team. Won't hurt nobody. That's fine. All right. He's not a bad kid. So we put him on the B team. He helps he gets through the season and all that. And then we get to off season. And this just happened like 2 weeks ago. And he gets to off season and I'm working with him, because my freshman coaches are doing track or whatever. So I got the B team guys in there and we're just doing basic skill work, ball handling, layups, all that stuff. And I'm like, man, this guy's really skilled. Like, you know what? And so I called our freshman coach and I said, man, does he want to play? What's the deal? He's like, oh, coach, you talk to him. I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. I need to talk to him. So I'm going to bring him in tomorrow. So I brought him in and I said, hey, look, just wanted to bring you in. I know you didn't get off to a great start this year, but look, you got some tools, man. If you really want to be good at this, I can help you with it, but you got to be committed to it. And
yeah,
he was honest. He was honest with me, Matt. He was like, coach, man, I appreciate it, man. But, I just like playing for fun. You guys are a little too serious about it. And, I want to be I want to go. I said, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? I mean, I want to be a doctor. I said, man, that's good, man. That's cool. I said, man, well, I appreciate you being honest with me. I was like, but, I just want to make sure, touch base, kind of see where you're at because we're getting towards the end of the year. And, I got to figure out where we're going to go here. Are you going to be part of the team next year or am I wasting my time? Or we got some summer programs coming up. I need to get this information out, but it would make it a lot easier if I knew what you were thinking. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to keep you. You could possibly, with a little work, I can get you in the weight room. You might be able to make the JV team. And so shook hands, walked out, went home. Guess he had a conversation with his parent and thought about it and came back and said, coach, I've been thinking about it, man. I think I do want to try. And I said, well, all right, man. I said, well, I'm glad you came back, and I said, well, let's give it your best shots. I'm not making any promises, but, give it a shot. I think you'd be good at it if you will commit to it. If you can and he's really skinny, but he's 6'4", and he has a little bit of skill. And I said, man, if you commit to it and you can gain some weight and get in the weight room and, you already know what the physical part's going to take to be in this program. You experienced it at the beginning. If you feel you want to go through it again, you can do it. Let's just see where it goes. And he was like, yes, sir. And walked out, with a smile on his face. And so that doesn't happen all the time, but that communication piece, like we're talking about, you never know. I mean, he may turn out to be something. I mean, he passes the eye test, and so I don't know, look, just things like that, man. I've gotten better at over time. Just like I said earlier, my eye for talent and the kids that, have a little something there. I don't know. I can kind of see it. I mean, I'm sure all of us can. I mean, a kid can play when you walk in the gym, just by the way he moves, by the way the ball comes off his hand and so forth.
But we talked about vision earlier and you showed him a vision of what could be, like what you saw. Like how many guys would hear that, and just kind of go, all right, appreciate it. Like that's it. Yeah, but like when you see something in a player, maybe they don't see it yet, but like you give them a couple tools, you tell them what could happen. But I don't know. I think there's a lot more to you as a communicator selling that vision or at least sharing it with him. That's different.
Yeah. I mean, man, I'm a work in progress, man. I'm blessed to do what I do. And I thank God every day, man, for just, I don't know why he picked me to do it. Honestly, I didn't have all these accolades. I was just an average player, but I think I'm okay at what I do for a living. And if I can help a kid that wants to be helped, right? I can't save them all. I know that, I'm not going to drive myself crazy doing that. Okay. But if I can help a kid that wants to be helped, that wants to do right, and it's okay. He can take hard coaching and be part of something special. When you want to be part of something special, and I can, we can help pave that path for you, and maybe you get something out of it.
Coach, before we go to the speed round, I'd love to ask you this: after 26 years of coaching, the success that you've had, the people you've been around. What's something you would do differently if you could start over today?
Man, slow down, man. Just slow down and not do so much. I hit the pavement running. My first head coaching job was at Clearbrook. Straight off 2003 state championship at DeSoto, right? First assistant. Man, before that I was putting feelers out for head coaching jobs and not a pipe, and then, you win and all of a sudden everybody wants wow, is that how this works? You know? And so, but I get there and I'm like, all right, I don't have DeSoto players, you know what I mean? So, and I'm trying to put the book in, right? I'm like, everything we did there, I'm trying to put in there. And it was, looking back at it, it was too much. And I was spinning my wheels. We were good. Don't get me, we were good. We're competitive, made the playoffs, had some good players, had some college players. But looking back, I spent all my time with the varsity guys. Didn't bother teaching the coaches I had at the sub-varsity level what I wanted at the sub-varsity levels. Just get them going, make them competitive is what they were doing. And for 3 years, so what would happen was the varsity team would be pretty good, really good actually. And then the next year, I'd have 6 or 7 seniors leave and I've got to replace those guys. And I'm like, got to start all over again, like they have no idea what we're doing. And so like just trying to get everybody uniform, right? And get them a base offense, get them a base defense, and then go from there and build from there. Yeah, obviously your varsity team does more than all the other guys, but there's no reason why your freshman and your JV and, with us in Houston, we have sophomore teams. They should at least know the same drills, right? They should at least be able to do some of the same drills so that if the next year or some of them get pulled up, you're not like, man, this guy don't know what he's doing, the terminology, all of that. And that was me. That was all me. I had to take the time to teach the coaches, to do that. So it took me about 3 years. And once I figured that out, man, we've taken off since then, as a program, and now it's like all 5 teams. And we're trying to win district at all 5 teams, and the coaches are excited about it. And everybody's trying to like keep a winning culture and a winning attitude. And so slow down, man, not do so much, not try to put in 5 presses. What do you, Coach Dyer used to tell me all the time, and I'll never forget this. And it's so simple. Like he's got such a way with words, whether it's in halftime or the way he talks to the kids, but it's always really, really simple. And one of the things I'll never forget that he would always say, it's like, this is when I became a head coach and I'd ask him for advice. He's like, well, what do you want to hang your hat on? He'd ask me about practice today and I'd ask him, what did you think? He's like, well, what did you hang your hat on? And if I couldn't answer that, I did too much. I did too much. So, simple, less is more, keep it simple, all those things, man. I know they're cliche and all us coaches have heard them before, but I mean, don't knock it till you try it. I mean, you don't need a whole bunch of stuff, to be good. Yeah. You just got to be good at what you do.
Tyler Costin had a great idea of going over last year's practice plans and taking out as much as you can. Like, can you take out 20%? Like, yeah, you take out 20% and then what do you lose? Nothing. And what you gain is maybe practice is shorter, which every player loves that, but also maybe you become masters in more because you're not doing as much. Coach, I think that's a huge and a great reminder for us because it's countercultural, right? Like you get a head job, you're thinking, I've got to be a grinder. I've got to be there at all hours. We have to do more than everyone else. And none of those things are inherently bad, but there is a way that you don't spin your wheels, that you can actually have balance, still be a good coach, and maybe be more enjoyable to be around too.
There's no doubt, man. No doubt. I wish I would have learned this concept a little earlier in my career, but I've got a good staff. One of them is my former player. The other one is a really good assistant that's ready to be a head coach. And, they help out a lot too, because I trust them with what we're doing and what we're teaching, the kids, but just slowing down, man. A few years ago, like we were moving, the pace, there was no downtime. It was moving, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we got a lot done. And it's part of the reason we are who we are. We're good. But the last several years, we've even slowed down. We've taken a lot of stuff out. There's a lot of stuff I don't do now that I did 5 years ago. And I love it because it's allowed us to like really retain and pay attention to those details and get good at some things I think that we're pretty good at. I think we take pride in passing the ball and being one of the better passing teams in the state. And I think it comes from that. Another thing, Matt, what I had some really good teams, 10 years ago and even now, but back when I had Carson and those guys, man, they were so competitive that they got bored with the little stuff. So I made a big mistake and I took all that stuff out, right? All the form shooting, all the ball handling, all the stuff. I took it out because it ended up being a circus, right? And I'm just nailing these guys and I'm wearing myself out, trying to get them all right, this is what we do. This is how we were competitive. It's always a winner loser, this and that, blah, 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 and all that. And then when those high level guys left, I went back to like, okay, we're not very good ball handlers. We're not very good passers. We're not very good at pivoting. We're not very good in transition. So I was like, man, we should gotta start doing this stuff again. So I started putting it back in. And what happened? They got good at it.
Yeah.
Because we were doing it every day. We made it part of the everyday routine. And it doesn't have to be long and drawn out.
Yeah.
But 5 minutes of ball handling, 5 minutes of passing, pivoting, or you don't even have to do them all the same day, but just make sure you're doing them.
Yeah.
Make sure you're still doing the daily vitamins, the daily fundamentals. And once you build that in, heck, now you're building a little basketball IQ in and now you're going. Now you can start layer after layer after layer and now you're going somewhere, now you're actually building a player and you're building a player's confidence because if he can do more with the ball, he's going to be better. The team's going to be better. The more guys you can have on the floor that can do more, but you just have to take the time and do it. And it's real easy to get away from that when you have good players. And I was guilty of that.
But I think that's also the art of coaching too, is knowing what your team needs that year. You got skilled guys. They need to compete. They need to feel like what they're doing, there's value in it. It needs to be fun. It needs to get their juices going. You got to keep them fresh throughout the year. They're already pretty darn good. But then the art of, and Chris Hill at Jesuit had a great point. He said, you got to treat every year as if it really is a new year, meaning just because it worked the year before doesn't mean you're just automatically rolling into the next one. On either side of that, and having a great staff, I think, is a big part of that. But it goes back to, Coach, to self-awareness. The self-awareness of, okay, yeah, we won a lot of games. Remember, it's not me, it's the players we had. What do our players now look like, and how can I help them achieve something like that?
Yep. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That's a huge lesson right there. It was a huge lesson for me and that I learned throughout my career. And, you'll never know it all in coaching. There's always so much to learn. And I'm a lifetime learner. I want to know as much as I can. Right now I'm big on the stuff I'm studying right now, just leadership stuff, communication stuff, just being better at that. I think that if I can get a grip on that kind of stuff based on what I already know and what we do, I just think it just moves it to a whole nother level. And so every year, just try to get better at something different, man. The X's and O's, I've got enough years behind me now that I've seen pretty much everything. There's nothing new. We're not inventing anything.
Yeah.
Things are starting to come back around. And that's scary. That's scary, man. That's when you're getting old, And I used to hear some of the guys, Tommy and Coach D and all these guys come, man, I'm coaching such and such son. He used to play for me. Well, now it's happening to me. I'm like, wow. So I don't know. Now I'm the old coach, I guess. I'm glad I don't look it.
Yeah, you're right on the money there. And interesting point too, though, about how, the longer you do this, maybe the X's and O's, like obviously always trying to find a better out of balance play, maybe a better way to do things. You're right though. It's the 75% stuff that I feel like even like that's a motivation behind this podcast. Notice, we don't really go into what you run, what you do, because you probably have great stuff and we all like the stuff that we have. But man, the things that you did share here, like I think every coach needs to hear all of that and be reminded of it, maybe light bulb moments there, because it's how you do anything is how you do everything, like you said.
Yep. Yeah, there's no doubt, man. I hope it helps somebody. It helped me a lot. I didn't invent all this stuff. This is stuff I had to figure out through listening to podcasts or reading books or watching videos, or, I'm appreciative for everything that I was able to acquire. And so hopefully this helps somebody out, man.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.